And welcome to Rauta's video. Pardon for my lost voice, it's because I have some COVID symptoms that nonetheless this video needs to be done before it's too late. And this is about Easter festival in Norway that is called Inferno Festival, which has been running for more than 20 years by now. Now, this year I'm happy to announce I'm going back there. That is my very first and so far the only time I've been at Inferno Festival was around 2004. So 18 long years have passed. Rest assured, I have had plans to go there previously, but sometimes life gets into the way. So here I'm gonna talk about some of the lineup bands which are present and of course give you a little bit of a basic information package about Inferno. I know this video comes a little bit late, given that the 4-day tickets are already sold out, actually like a month ago. So those who prefer to do whole big deal there in Oslo, Norway for 4 days or more, well, out of luck. But there are single tickets instead you prefer for like 1 or 2 day festival events or things like that. Anyway, I'll try to give you the basic idea of what's going on in Oslo. And also, let's talk about some bands. So far, none of the requested interview bands have been confirmed to me. So at this point, I don't even know which bands I'm going to get interviewed. I hope to get a response to that before I am actually traveling, so it gets easier. But unfortunately, I guess they're just way too busy with all the plans. I haven't got any confirmations. My plan is to do roughly 2 interviews per day. And that would mean during 4 days, 8 interviews. But thumbs up for that. I really don't know how it's going to turn out, or will there be some improvised sessions with some smaller bands or whatever. But we'll see. Let's tune in for the festival's main website. And I've already opened the website for the schedule, because that's obviously you need to know. So what is happening are 2 venues, Rockefeller and John D mostly, and the dates are from April 14th to April 17th, so 4 days of action. And it's for adults only, that is 18 years or older, and doors open at 4 p.m. Now this is Easter, so it means it's gonna be holiday season, and that is not normal opening times are so much available for lots of stores and restaurants and stuff like that. That's what I'm assuming anyway, based what happens in Finland during Easter times. So I guess it's gonna be busy time this time also, but then again it's also perfect time to see some bands because there's not so much maybe everyday activity in Oslo, Norway. Now, people who have never been to Inferno Festival, it's kind of easy to sum it up. It's mostly Norwegian bands driven festival with lots of like-minded metalhead. And the focus is more or less in black metal. But there are bands beyond that, obviously. So it's not like some weird thing. Actually, when I'm starting to talk about it, it's very close in so many ways, but not totally similar to what's going on with Steelfest and Steel Chaos festivals here in Finland, because I mean they're mostly also black metal festivals like this one, but still some death metal and thrash metal and weird bands like that. Weird, you get the idea. But yeah, overall it's kind of our same kind of an audience, so you pretty much know what to expect when you're buying tickets for that kind of stuff. Now, like I said, because Norway really was like having the crown in the 90s when it comes to black metal, obviously, for that reason, and also for, you know, getting those bands for your price, for your ticket. Lots of bands are going to be Norwegian. For people who don't live in Norway, that's a kind of a big blessing. I mean, once you go there, you get to see a lot of big names. But for people who are living there, not so much. So there's a big difference versus that and Steelfest in the terms of what is, you know, domestic band and whatever is foreign one. Now, enough of that kind of a talk. Let's take a look at the schedule and then talk about the general idea. So things happen on Thursday with, you know, mostly focusing on Rockefeller and John D Club. There are smaller clubs as well, so they're listed here as well, and they have some promising names. I'll get back to that. But first we have bands like, I'm gonna focus on the bigger names, so which not gonna be 30 minutes of a video. What we have here in essence, you know, closing the night is Triumph of Death. That is obviously Tom G. Warrior going, you know, back to early days of Hellhammer and Celtic Frost. So obviously That's an interesting take. Okay, for copyright reasons, they go for a different name. But it is essence what is happening here. And they are going to play actually in Finland just like a day before this event. So if any luck, if there's any luck I'm going to see them twice. But I don't know. And this would be, of course, one of the most suited names when it comes to interviews. Would be awesome to talk about some old school, some 80s days of Hellhammer and Celtic Frost with Tom G. Warrior and talk about that. And of course to see them on stage. The other big names for Thursday are obviously Isan of Emperor fame. He's doing his solo project of many albums out by now. And I guess Belzer and for my personal interest, Kamfar and Ricard Deleuze Hommes Tomber. The thing here is, I've actually got to review these guys a couple of times, and then again, I've been a long-time fan of Kamfar, so it would be nice to see them both live, as well as interview those guys. But I don't really know. And of course, there's Cadaver from Norway, old school death metal. Not my favorite band out there, but interesting to see because there are not too many active Norwegian death metal bands to begin with. Now, Friday, it's going to be also interesting. First of all, it's dominated by Venom, the forefathers of black metal more or less. And obviously there are now two Venom names, Venom and Venom Inc. But still, nonetheless, this is more or less the original one. That is then again warmed up by French death metal band Benighted, which are, in my opinion, a good band. But also interesting names such as Vedbuensende, also from Norway. And then again, Gorgoroth, which is always nice to see. Now, I haven't seen this iteration of Gorgoroth live, and never got to interview them, but early Gorgoroth is so fucking great. I mean, one of my favorites of all Norwegian bands that I would really like to see both of them on stage and get to interview. The Great Old Ones is also an interesting name. They are more or less focused on, if I remember correctly, Lovecraftian doom metal, something like that. Then again, Azagon from Netherlands, always solid, 2 good albums in. And then again, Einherje, which is the Viking metal band from Norway, got recently replaced Uada, which I guess for me is a blessing in disguise. It's going to play there. It's going to be interesting. I've never seen Vedbuensende. And again, I'm not a fan of avant-garde black metal, but it would be nice to see them once on stage. And then there's this one smaller band in smaller clubs called Ulve Hyrde, which I recently also reviewed. They're Norwegian black metal band singing about Norwegian history and Norwegian language, so it's all about Norwegian. But they were quite promising with their debut album, so definitely worth taking a shot. Then it gets bigger, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday, the weekend days. Well, technically speaking, Friday kind of counts in, but as you can see, there are 4 clubs now. So Niden, which there is the Rock In, having the smaller bands. And the focus is, of course, on the bigger ones. Now, Saturday is dominated by Mayhem, and we all know they play quality sets. For me, the last time I see Mayhem was just before COVID in late 2019, and they were solid, did Attila's interview right there, and once again they proved to be very, very solid. And then there are bands like Marduk and Toulouse warming up the stage, so quite big Nordic black metal events in that sense. We have Valkyria from Sweden, another good band. We have Asfux from Netherlands doing old school death metal, and Darkforders from Germany doing good black metal as well. What is also interesting is Toulouse and Vreid, because now they are different bands obviously, but there is like kind of a different history, and at the same time they have this kind of a strong bond in so many ways. Now, Vreid is more about kind of a 90s black metal met with this kind of a black and roll kind of a thing, spawning from Windy, rest in peace. Whereas Toulouse is more about this kind of a old school, 1990s old school mid-tempo black metal, which is kind of a same. And the both bands are funny in that sense that, they have both changed names, and the lineups are still, quite intact towards all the 90s. I mean, before Vreid, there was this Vindir, and Toulouse later on become Cold, and then again and Toulouse. So they're kind of interesting bands that may sound like not so known, but definitely have their roots in early 1990s black metal. So interesting bands from Norway and other countries as well. And of course, there are these smaller bands, which I don't even know. Sifir, I know, if I recall correctly, they are from Turkey, Greece. I won't just check it out online. I'm just laying on my mind. Anyway, interesting names to see. Anyway, what gets interesting for Sunday then again is there's this Finnish band, Orassi Patsusu. Not my favorite ones, but it's interesting to see some for me, domestic bands on Norwegian territory. But more important for me is to see, once again, Hordom Rife. They have been proven to be very solid of new school of Norwegian black metal. By quotation marks is that their style is kind of a old school, but the band itself is quite a bit newer. Then again, there are bands such as Murgskog and, Creator from Germany and Tåke from Norway, one of the bigger names of Norwegian black metal nowadays. Where it gets interesting is that I hardly know any of these bands on Sunday's John D side. Be it Eridu, Murst, Discarnate or Order. They are not ringing any bigger bells in my head. So there's something definitely fresh for me to see, but also these kind of classic names as such Marduk and Mayhem and, Toulouse and all the like. So it's going to be interesting. And also Isvind is already playing in afternoon. It's going to be interesting because I don't know how Norwegian people party, but if it goes very much like Finnish ways, it's going to be 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. before we get to bed. Imagine then getting up around maybe noon or 1 o'clock and suddenly you realize, hey, right after breakfast or, lunch, you're going to see first bands. So it's going to be interesting to figure out the whole thing here. But 4 days is going to be rough. Now, I don't know when or which bands I'm going to interview, but I hope to do them before the shows so I wouldn't be missing so much the bands. It's going to be nonetheless very interesting lineup. But like I said, it's also different from many other fests because this is so much leaning on Norwegian bands, both bigger and smaller ones. Now, what do you need to know about Oslo is that even though it's a capital city of Norway, and in Norwegian terms it's quite big, it's no London or Paris or Berlin, not to mention things like New York. So it's relatively small, especially if you think about the central area. Because, all the Nordic cities are relatively small when we're talking about the big world. So you get to see all the main attractions relatively close. I don't know what I have time for and what I get to see, but it's going to be interesting because, like I said, I've been only once to Inferno Festival, and it was 2004 when I had like 2 days of time. Didn't get to see actually those other attractions besides the club or bands. So it's going to be interesting to see if I get any kind of a bonus footage from outside the venues and all that stuff. And whether I'm going to see different kind of people and partying on what it was like in Glasgow's Darkness Guides Us Festival in 2019, partying and drinking into the very small hours and then getting back again right after midday. It's going to be hard and challenging, but it's going to also be a lot of fun. Nothing like super goofy, but you get the idea. Drinking and having time with good friends, that's what I'm aiming. And now, if you're reading this or watching this, not reading, why is it reading? If you're listening to this video or watching it, and now I have a question for you people who maybe know anything more about Oslo than me, or maybe even live in Oslo. If you have a good gym to recommend to me, because I might be going once or twice, depending how much I have time, because obviously I can't have 4 days of break from my workout routines. Give me a name of your favorite gym in Oslo area, and let's see if I can make it there for some nice workout. If not, I'm gonna Google for some ideas myself. Definitely, if you see me going about in or at the Inferno Fest or in Oslo area, feel free to pull me by the sleeve and say hello. Maybe we'll have time for beers and talk. And see you there with the gigs. And next stop after this one is obviously Steelfest in a month later than this one. This is the basic package of Inferno Festival 2022. If you have questions or comments, let me know in the comments section below. Take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.